I'm Ruud. Welcome to the session, Accelerating Mission Outcomes with No-Code, Low-Code Machine Learning. So how many of you here have use cases that you think are a good fit for machine learning? There you go. Love that. And it's usually never just one use case, right? You can have multiple use cases. It's always a battle to find the resources and the skill set to make it happen, right? So today, I'm going to give you the easy button for machine learning. So this is no-code machine learning tool that we call Amazon SageMaker Canvas. I'm going to be trying to do a live demo here, so bear with me. But first, set the stage with a couple slides. So typically, like you said, we work backwards from our business requirements, find use cases that you think are a good fit for machine learning. And once you've maybe shortlisted some of those use cases and maybe prioritized one or two of them, it's a life cycle, right? There are multiple steps to get from that use case to a model that will actually work for you. So that is that ML life cycle journey. It starts with identifying different sources of data, collecting data, preparing it, cleansing it, feature engineering it, building a model, which means finding an algorithm that best fits your use case. And then after that, obviously some kind of hyperparameter tuning, evaluation, and then finally model deployment. And it doesn't just end there, right? Once you have the model deployed, you need to continue to monitor the model to make sure that it still performs as expected. So, and once you've done all of this, you come back to the beginning. It's a very iterative process. This can take from months to weeks. So just summarizing the challenges, ML is an experimentation. It takes time. It takes a lot of resources, typically with ML expertise, which can be pretty scarce. And then if you want to leverage other resources in your organizations, like your business analysts, for example, they need to be upskilled, right? That takes time. So basically, how can you scale ML in your organization? And that's really what this demo is about. How can you accelerate or increase your velocity to value using a no-code tool? And that's the one that I'm going to be doing a live demo of. This is SageMaker Canvas. So what you're seeing here, let me just make sure that this works. So while that's coming up, how many of you have heard of Amazon SageMaker? This is awesome. I love it. And how many of you have actually used Canvas for your work? OK, one hand. It's got to happen in a live demo, right? But I wanted to keep it real. So while this is refreshing, and I think part of that is the network. SageMaker itself it's a fully managed end-to-end ML service. There are lots of features in it, and Canvas is one of them. So this is a no-code feature, which is part of SageMaker, and essentially this is kind of a purpose-built feature for business users, for your business analysts. You require no ML expertise whatsoever. So I'm going to be demonstrating how this works and its capabilities. So first off, so you could think of Canvas as kind of the single pane of glass that brings various different models. So these can be your predictive models, like any kind of regression or classification models, but also natural language processing, computer vision, all of those. But you could start with just what are called ready-to-use models. So these are your traditional ML models, but also generative AI foundation models as well. So I'm going to be starting with a Gen AI demo first. So while it's coming up, what this is doing is, so this is kind of, think of Canvas as the front end for, you might have heard of Amazon Bedrock. We talked a lot about it this morning in Adam Selipsky's keynote. But this is being powered by Amazon Bedrock on the back end. And what you're seeing here is essentially a drop-down menu of the foundation models from Bedrock. And these include your proprietary models, but also the publicly available foundation models that are available as part of Bedrock. So you can essentially choose a foundation model. So in this case, I'm going to start with Titan, which is Amazon's own foundation model. And then I'm going to pick one of the example prompts. So in this case, I might say, create a summary of KPIs. So what you're seeing here is it's a model playground. So you picked a foundation model, you picked a prompt, and you see that in action all inside the same interface. So you see the results here. And then you can definitely go try other models as well. But the another feature of Canvas too is where you can kind of do a face-off between two different models. So for example, you can pick Anthropic Claude 2 and then Amazon Titan, and for both of them, you pick the same prompt. So in this case, let's go with writing a report, right? Generation, text generation use case. And then what you will see is the results coming back, the responses coming back for the exact same task from two different models, so that you can compare the results side by side. So this is a really good way to, especially when you're trying to select the type of foundation model that would work best for your use case. This is just a really easy way to go, try out models, try out your own prompts, and compare results. So that's the generative AI piece. I'm going to move into other ready-to-use models as well. So you'll see there are different types of models. There are some for computer vision. There are some for documents, some for just text and things like that. And these are all being powered by other AI services on the back end. So for example, let's take text. And let's say that we want to do some kind of sentiment analysis, right? You'll see that it's being powered by an AI service called Amazon Comprehend. And the way this works is you input your text, and then you generate predictions. And so in this case, based on the text that you input, you have a result of a positive sentiment. And then what's important to know is there is a confidence score that's associated with the results. Because there's a probabilistic model, confidence score it's really important, because that is how you decide the quality of the response that's coming back to you. So I did a single prediction, but you can use this model to do batch predictions as well. So let's take an example of a computer vision model, which is powered by Amazon Recognition. So this is a case where I'm doing an object detection task, provide an image, kind of bounding boxes of all the different objects that are in there. And then you'll see for each of the objects that were detected, there is a corresponding confidence score. So that is, so it's a combination of those objects that were detected with the confidence score that you would then use in your actual applications. So I'll give you one more example in the ready-to-use models, and then we'll move into custom models. So let's do document. So document analysis is kind of tricky because sometimes documents, I'm thinking like PDFs, for example. They're not just text, right? They can have forms, they can have tables, they can have numerical content, things like that. So how can you essentially have a conversation with your documents? And that's what Amazon Textract helps you do. So in this case, I'm picking a sample PDF document. And as you can see, it has, it's an invoice of some kind, and it has forms, it has numerical data, tables, all of that. And behind the scenes, it's using an AI service called Textract. And then you can ask questions of the document, and then it'll give you results back. So that's the power of using deep learning models behind AI services. So you don't have to do the heavy lifting. So those are some ready-to-use models, right? There are quite a few of them, but they don't all necessarily fit your use case. Or maybe you have your own specific data that you want to use to train your models, and you can do that as well, all from inside Canvas. So that would be what we call a custom model. So let's actually go ahead and create a new one. So when I try to create one, it gives me some options. It asks me if I want to do predictive analysis. So this can be, for example, a regression model where you're trying to predict a numerical value, or if you're doing some kind of a classification, right, with tabular data. Or I can work with images and do image classification, or if I'm doing text analysis, then I can do text classification as well. So you have options there. So as a business analyst, you really don't have to know all the different algorithms or the specifics of the model that you're trying to build. All you do is kind of at a high level specify the problem that you're trying to solve, and you bring the data to the model. So in this case, I'm just saying I'm going to do predictive analytics. So there are some sample data sets, but you can bring your own data as well. So I'm going to be doing, for example, let's say a sample housing data. I pick it because in this case, what I'm trying to do is predict house prices based on certain attributes. And you can bring your own data. So usually the data that you bring in, it's you're going to be storing that inside an object store such as Amazon S3. So it's just a simple CSV file. It has all these different attributes that you can look at once it's loaded. But really, all you need to specify at this point is your target column, right? Which is the attribute that you're trying to predict. So that would be the median house value here. And then you will see that Canvas already detected that this is a numerical prediction because it has from the data, it can tell that the column house value is a numerical value that you're trying to predict. So it's actually finding, at this point, trying to find the right algorithm to use behind the scenes. And then you can, so when you get to the actual building the model, you have two options. So one is what we call as a quick build, which just takes maybe 2 to 15 minutes to complete. This is kind of like that quick analysis to make sure that your data is valid, things like that. And once that's done, and I'm actually going to launch that, you can do what is called a standard build, which is kind of the full build, and which can take, depending on the size of data and the type of model that you're trying to build, can take anywhere from 2 to 4 hours. So let's try to launch a quick build. This is going to take some time. So you can see that it's, SageMaker Canvas is actually trying to do some of the data validation as part of the quick build. It's looking for any data quality issues. So you don't end up spending resources, precious resources, compute resources for data that's not ready for model building. So it kind of catches those issues upfront. It's going to do a bunch of analysis. And it'll give you some expected time, 2 to 15 minutes. But at the end of that, let me see if I can go pull up something that I've already built, so we don't have to wait for this. Yeah, so this is another model, a quick build model that I did a couple of days ago on the same data set. So what this gives you is, at the end of that, the metrics, such as root mean squared error, and it gives you explainability. So one of the neat things of Canvas is it has model explainability built into it, which is essentially saying, if I have a prediction, what are the features that contributed to that prediction, right? And it actually gives you a weightage of those feature attributions. And that's what you're seeing, on the column impact section there. So you can bring your own data at this point, make predictions, and so on. Let me go to the predict part. Okay. And so here again, you can do single predictions or batch predictions, and then your data will be available. The results of those predictions will be available inside S3. So that's really the model building and prediction part. But you can go ahead, once your full model is built, you can go ahead and deploy that, and then share with other folks in your teams. So it also enables collaboration. So that's what I've got. How much time? Yep.
Thank you very much, Bruce.
I can take questions. If
we have about like 1 minute for a question. Does anybody have a quick question? No? All right.
Yeah, so let me just switch back here. Yeah. So thanks for coming. Thank you for your attention. I highly recommend checking it out. Canvas, it really increases your velocity to value. You don't have to be a data scientist to do ML. It's truly a feature, a service that democratizes ML. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Rude.